Traditional lands acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge and respect the Indigenous peoples within whose traditional lands we are meeting today. You have the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? I don't have any. No. So just a motion to accept the agenda? No. Donna, second. All in favor? And the minutes, you got the minutes here, but you had the minutes before. I didn't have any comments about corrections to the minutes, so we'll just say they've been received. We don't have any delegates tonight, but we do have public. So, public, do you have questions now, or are you here to observe? I'm just here to observe. See what's happening. Okay, and you do have a chance at the end of the agenda to speak as well. All right, going down to old business. The first one, Commissioner introduction. So Donna, this is something you wish to do.
Yeah, I noticed when we became commissioners, you know, just a few months ago, a couple of months, that nobody was introduced, and not just to the commissioners, but to the people of Riondel. Like, they don't know who we are, what we do, why we want to be commissioners, and RDCK gets that information when we apply, right? They ask for it. They ask for a resume. That's where it ends. Nobody else hears about it or hears anything about it. We're just commissioners. And so I think that it would be nice if we somehow were introduced to the public.
Well, the one easy way to do it is because everybody can just go around the table and give it 60 seconds or 45 seconds of where they've been at for the last few decades. Would that make sense, Chair?
Sure.
But that doesn't.
I might be longer, but
Yeah, it doesn't do anything to the people that aren't here. They still don't know. I don't just mean Andrew and I, because we've been here for a few months now. I just mean, I just mean when a new commissioner comes on board, that they're introduced to the public.
To do a bit of a publication or?
Yeah,
Well,
maybe.
we have a commission of management website.
Yeah,
You could simply put a
maybe a
one
little.
paragraph
Yeah.
summary.
introduce yourself.
Yeah.
In there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think Teresa maybe could put that in to give her. Sure, but I don't.
Yeah, we don't need.
Worry about photos. Just 100-word blurb describing background would be fine.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So send that to Teresa, and she'll see if she can put it on our website.
Okay, so everybody's gonna make up a little blurb about themselves?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
But then, because we kind of dove right into the first meeting and you guys were here, you know, round table, like.
No, we don't need to do that.
We discussed it, don't worry, everyone.
Yeah.
Trying to do something.
Yeah.
Bit by bit.
Yeah.
Okay, that should be straightforward to do.
Yeah, I think it's the most important that the people in the town know who we are and, you know, a little bit about us, because we're their voices, right?
It's also important for the people of the town to come out.
Well, here we
Well,
go.
maybe not.
That's the point.
Like it.
That's what we want.
Mhm.
And pass the word along. So.
Pass them into you, have you look at them?
No, any mistakes will be your responsibility.
And make us look good.
Yeah, come on. All right, let's go to the next item, 7.2, unsightly property bylaw. So, Andrew, what did you?
Yeah, so this is a new bylaw. We introduced this last time we met, right? So this was in effect?
Gary said.
Yeah.
So it's not new, the bylaw has been around for a while, but it's new to be in effect in Area A, yeah.
Okay.
But the unsightly premises bylaw has been around for a decade or more.
Okay.
So now, did you want to know a little bit about it, or how it's activated,
My
or
question
why?
is, we kind of said it was there. Do we want to do anything with it? I didn't see any resolution on it.
So if I might,
Okay.
so it wouldn't be up to the commission.
Okay.
This is always an issue in rural areas, and a lot of people come into this area and they'll say, well, I've brought my values of whatever town, city, village I lived in, and we should have a this, we should have a that, we should have a theater or an opera, like it's extreme, I'm being sarcastic. Other people come in and say, just leave me alone. I'm gonna build a yurt, or I'm gonna just simply live in a tent or whatever, and you'll see all kinds of structures around here. So, the balance as to whether or not you're causing an issue for a neighbor usually comes down to nuisance, or noise, dog, stereo, stuff like that. Or at times, what you do or don't do might cause an issue with your property value. And one of the biggest issues is property values on private property, because it's difficult for someone to say, yeah, I want to live here next to that, until whoever's got this collection of treasure. And it's usually a situation where people collect stuff, they say, well, they just can't part with it. I live in the Wild West, I'm gonna do what I want. Yeah, okay, so if you're causing other people issues around their property value, then it's nothing to do with the commission, not the commission's problem. It's an individual thing. Individuals can go to the bylaw, to Jordan, and launch a complaint, say, this is an issue for me. So the result of that will have different tiers depending on where you are and what the land use regulations are around. So everyone here has an official community plan land use designation. So you'll be single family residential, or you commercial, or you do whatever. But you're not zoned north of Boswell. So you'll find there has to be loose interpretation in an area that's not zoned as to what can cause a land use issue for the neighbor in terms of their value.
The definition was clear, what,
So unsightly premises is one of the tools which can be used, other than zoning, to say, well, you're running a used car lot here and that's causing a problem with my personal single family residential. Unsightly premises is a tool that can be used to have bylaw come out and say, okay, you are causing an issue for your neighbors. I'm not gonna tell you you can't necessarily have some of the stuff you have, but you're either gonna clean the stuff up, hide it within a building, or screen it with adequate fencing, so that you don't cause that issue for the neighboring property, and you don't cause the issue for the value. So where you see unsightly premises go through an enforcement, we usually look for voluntary compliance, and we usually start with a discussion. Well, what can you park with? What can you house, stack, neatly covered, do something that doesn't look quite so much like a collection of samples? And then what can you screen with hedges or fences? So it doesn't mean the stuff's going to disappear, but the idea is it doesn't have that negative impact on the neighboring property. So it's not this commission, not me as a director, but you would talk to bylaw directly and express your concern, and then Jordan or somebody will come out and start a conversation with that landlord.
I think people don't say something because they don't want to be targeted, they don't want to enter a conflict with the neighbor. What about if we ask the property owner?
No,
Yeah,
because you're
but
imposing a judgment on.
I had a
somebody.
couple people
Yeah.
approach me and they seen this on the minutes and said,
Yeah.
finally, we're gonna do something.
Yeah.
So, I guess maybe.
So it is not the commission. You have a set of services that you're supposed to provide guidance and input. And the unsightly premises is not a service. The bylaw enforcement is not a service that this commission is here to act on.
Well, what can we do to make the town?
What
We, several times we've done over the years where we've done cleanup, try and get, again, voluntary compliance. Say, well, you get a problem, you got stuff. Maybe you just need a couple guys to pick up trucks and trailers and strong backs and help you haul this stuff away and get rid of it. And that's been done from time to time. There's people with vehicles. Well, vehicles are less of a problem now than they were some time ago. Someone will come and collect your vehicles if you have enough, and they're gone. They have some value. That's a matter. But if you're unwilling to part with stuff, then that's where you will find some individuals are entrenched. It's treasure. It's their values are not going to align with your values. So as a community, you're not dictating that, because this is not a town, it's not an incorporated community, and it's not zoned. As individuals, where the impact is more serious for you as individuals, that's where you step up. If you're afraid to,
Probably why not.
nothing's happening. I know letters are going out to various properties where people are being told they're going to come into compliance.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna say where, individual bylaw infractions are private, I don't see ongoing stuff, I'll see the beginning of something, or I'll hear comments. But if you want to talk to bylaw about something that has property, impacts your property value, do it. But as a commission, you're not gonna go starting to target people and saying, this is a problem for community writ large. That's not your role. But if you wanna do community cleanups again, try and get people to say, hey, we got trailers to pick up some stuff, that's been successful in the past. We've also done this with the illegal dumping north and south of town a few times. Like, let's just get out and clean it up. We've had Corey go out with the crew the right time of year and do some burn. Some people think the best thing with your garden waste is why go to the transfer station? It's free all month this month, yard and garden. But you drive just 1 kilometer and push it off the back of your trailer. And the bush will take care of it. Except it becomes a fire hazard. His buddy says, oh, look, this is a good place to dump. Then the next guy says, oh, let's dump my crap here. Then there's a couch, and there's no coffee, and there's some other garbage, and then there's more grass looking stuff over it. So the community, we have tackled that several times. So it's the whole same mentality. I got something I don't want, I'm gonna leave it piled in my yard, or I'm gonna dump it in the bush. The community, you can talk about the big stuff, volunteer, but if individuals don't target.
So we deal with the result, not the cause.
The cause is an individual matter.
Yeah.
And it would be the individual who says they're impacted, then the bylaw officer will try and make a judgment over that impact and try and get a compliance agreement. Short of compliance agreements, so we have, I have 4 or 5 or 6 going on right now. So people get a court injunction within the regional district, not in area A. They get a court injunction saying you haven't complied, you're causing negative impact on the neighbor, this is serious enough, you're going to court. They go to court, you can pretty well guess what's gonna happen, because the judges don't live here, they live in towns and cities and villages. And they say, yeah, you're causing an issue to society, and we're gonna grant this injunction that you will stop having this condition in your property. Failing action, the regional district is authorized to enter, to assess things of value, to remove things of value and put them in bonded storage for you to come and retrieve or not in so many days, to hire an independent third-party contractor to collect the stuff that is deemed to be garbage, waste, or hazardous, lawfully dispose of it, even if that means it goes to Swan Hills or wherever it has to go. Put this balance of the entire cost on your tax bill. If you fail to pay that in 3 years, your property is sold as taxed. And that's normal process, it's slow.
That's what normal communities do.
Normal communities incorporate, are able to contain this. We have such a plethora of properties where people do what they want when they want. We've talked about how could we contain this in one shot? And that would probably mean hire 3, 4, 5 more bylaw officers and start flooding the courts with applications.
Well, you start, right?
We've started
By raising awareness. Well, I mean, most people will clean their property up. And then the cities I've been in before, they'll target 2 or 3 properties a year. They're a small community like that.
We've been doing that.
And then they'll just slowly get them done, right?
We've been doing that for a long time. So the first areas, like areas E and F, crowded around Nelson, have had on such premises for a while. And one of the biggest cleanups might have been at New York tagging. And there's a fire department went in as well. You have so many vehicles, gas, oil, fire hazard, nobody can get in, nobody get out if there was a problem. So those were targeted early on. There's a few others being targeted, area K, or like too. A number of them, because neighbors and other people who have a concern, vested interest, have said, yeah, this is not a problem just for the immediate. So it's not a commission thing. Education is good. It's only in effect recently in a couple more areas, A and B being 2 of them. And I'm gonna let bylaw issue their letters, have the conversations, and see where it goes. It's rdck.ca on the website. I can open the website. Well, no.
And what happens if the neighbor complains and the person that they're complaining about knows that they complained, and all of a sudden you've got neighbors fighting?
Yeah, well, it does. It'll probably help.
If you have a police issue, it's RCMP. If our bylaw officers have an issue, they bring the RCMP.
Well, they might
Not
not
in-
start a fight, they might just hate your guts,
Yeah,
and whatever that means for the future.
yeah, we don't have any
Neighbor.
RCMP
People
here
move
like
for
now.
stuff like that.
Our detachments in Creston, and they do come up for certain things.
Thursdays I hear, come by.
So, government bylaws, bylaw
They make a
enforcement,
run Every on Thursday. All
they come out of Creston. Bylaw enforcement, RDCK.ca, bylaw enforcement has, I'm on the bylaws now. Take a minute, you wanna just look up RDCK.ca on your phone?
Yeah, but is there a phone number or an email?
There'll be both.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the website's pretty thorough. All right, going down, 7.3, Andrew. this one's yours.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm rolling here. I just want to bring some resolutions to this here too. As volunteers, we had a concern of liability. Do we want to pursue, insurance for the volunteers, or do we want to say, don't do physical work? I'm not sure where that is.
So, be good to have a concrete example. So,
Okay, so let's have Nels. Nels is doing some carpentry.
So
Work.
in the future, you might need him. You know, do you want him on a list of volunteers that has insurance for personal injury? We checked, I can't get a price on it. I don't think they're gonna be expensive for some retired people volunteering. Like,
well,
The regional district self-insures, and maybe Joe, if you're able to follow the conversation, do we have any commissions, so far as you know, that have specific insurance coverage for activities they might be involved in, Joe?
Yeah, no. So that, I don't mean no, that it's not a good idea, I just mean no, I'm not aware. So just the volunteers that are under the direction of RDCK staff and are recorded are covered for liability, but this sounds like to me is that we're looking to have a policy that covers volunteers in Riondel if during that course of volunteering, they have a personal injury, something like WorkSafe might do. Is that what I
That's
understand?
yeah.
Yeah, so that,
Yeah,
that
but
the
they said
regional-
it kind of covers it like WCB is what they said. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it's
so
just
that- yeah, so that kind of coverage the regional district, does not have. You know, it's a good question. I've never heard of us seeking it. It's a little bit of I could see that being I've actually never heard of it being provided, so that's interesting.
Yeah, we checked with the insurance companies. They'll give insurance. They need the names and the ages, and they do volunteer policies for personal injuries.
And they said it's very reasonable.
So I don't know.
All insurance companies say it's very reasonable.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
We just ran into a case where we talked about personal liability if we do something rather than just talking, and it didn't go anywhere. So I'm wondering, do we avoid personal physical interaction to avoid liability, or do we want to pursue insurance?
Sorry, so two different
Or did we just
questions.
take our time?
Are we talking about liability insurance or like, sorry. So usually when you
Personal injury,
sign up,
liability.
Yeah, not liability,
No.
personal injury.
Personal injury.
yeah, so like some,
So Riondel ain't liable for the injury, I guess, or some other party who's liable, right?
yeah, so the way that so there's another part of the agreement of volunteering, and that is that the volunteer waives that liability. that's another reason why you need to control what a volunteer is doing. And it needs to be under strict supervision. So normally you wouldn't put a volunteer in a position where they're, where there may be a greater risk of injury.
So
So like,
someone asked, so if you have a task and you gotta run up a ladder and take a look at something, we should avoid it?
well, you would, again, I know what you guys, I know what's, it's a good question. So what I would do if I was commissioned is I would make a recommendation, a resolution to request RDCK staff to investigate
Did we lose you or are you
volunteer
thinking?
injury, like injury insurance for doing, for, for, um, for volunteering with the Regional District of Central Kootenay. I know what it's like. I can see what it's like in organizations that have been involved in for participants participating in something. It's just from the volunteering side of it that I haven't seen that. So I would direct RDCK staff to investigate what that might be. If you've got suggestions of companies that you've talked to, I would just provide that information.
Yeah, I know the only thing specific we've done in the past, is get volunteers to sign waivers saying that it's their own responsibility if they're volunteering.
It'd be nice to know what we were, choosing between, like at least get a quote and see what.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
And through the chair, that's correct, Gerald, that normally it is a waiver, but I can, a waiver though, when you have a volunteer doing something, like a waiver is usually contained to an activity. But like, I hear what people are saying, like what we're actually having is like nils, it sounds like, sorry, we shouldn't use any names, but having a volunteer go up to do an inspection on a roof. Usually when we do those kind of volunteering waivers, it is about Saturday morning cleanup. Something that is contained, not something that is instantaneous.
Yes, that's what we've done in the past when we've done basement cleanups here in the building or work on sometimes on the tennis courts out there. And
Yes.
some of those we've used. So those are one-day activities.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by that can kind of nice compartment that you can put it into.
Okay, well, I think we can do that resolution. Do you want to make that resolution, Andrew?
Make a resolution that what?
The resolution to request RDCK staff to investigate volunteer injury insurance for volunteers with the RDCK.
Yeah, I can request it, and you've got that all in the minutes there?
Can I read it back? The commission requests staff to investigate the accident in a volunteer incident.
Yeah. I'll get some information and bring that.
And does that have to be a motion? Or is that?
Yeah, it's outside normal direction of staff. Like if Joe normally was working on the building, it'd be direction of staff to see update something on the report. The about the building condition, but this is outside. And you can imagine that will cause a debate at the board table, because we have dozens of commissions and committees. But the,
All right, so Andrew's made the motion for the resolution. Is there a seconder? No, second, all in favor? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, there was a second part to this with the contractor liability. I know we've discussed that, and we know RDCK checks on insurance before the contractor work. We want to do that here in the community when we call in contractors.
you should only be using somebody like routine and return maintenance contractors. You shouldn't be calling in a contractor to knock that wall down.
No, but if we brought an electrician in to do something, do we want to know if he has liability insurance?
So that'd be
Should we
something
check?
you could, sorry, through the chair, you could contact Joe perhaps, because
Yeah.
he can contract, or through AJ or whatever, any kind of service you need. But it might make sense to say, okay, well, here's who's doing plumbing and electrical, and get the paperwork in advance. I mean, I used to use for years, I used standing offer agreement, where you do it all in advance. You just issue a call up, say maximum $1,000, maximum $5,000, whatever. So I think that would be best to vet through Joe. If you have a concern, if you have a ticketed electrician or plumber, probably they have all the insurance required, but well, again, Joe can check it. If you have a concern about a professional working in the area.
No, that's not just a concern. Do we want to check if they have insurance or not? Whether you have a concern or not. My concern is that we don't check to see if they got insurance. Joe?
Through the chair, it's a great question, and so I just want to make, sometimes language is important just to make sure we're clear. So I just want to be clear. Just so everyone knows on the commission table, especially if you're new, there is no legal entity called the Riondel Commission of Management. Like that has no legal standing. So any agreement with a contractor that's coming into doing work is with the regional district of Central Kootenay. The Riondel Commission of Management is a governance body, not a contracting body. So, Andrew, it's a very, very good question. And it's something that we kind of struggle with sometimes with commissions, just getting that point across. So to Gary's point, if we have a couple of things. If the amount, we are just, as Gary just brought up, standing offers. I'm going to try to keep it really super clear. And this is actually coming up with that we're working at Crawford Bay in our park or in other spaces, is that right now the district doesn't make very good use of standing offers. And to Andrew, to your point, a standing offer is where we would know through that process which contractors we could have on an on-call basis that meet those requirements. So right now we're just starting to get into that process. So you're absolutely correct that we want to be going in that direction. In the meantime, if there is a contract, if there is someone that you want to enter into a more formal relationship with, we can enter into something using something called an RDCK service agreement, which lays out the insurance that is required, and we can help manage that piece. So sorry. So yes, it can be done. We do have formal agreements for vendors, which in a small sense is called a service agreement.
So would that apply to someone, for example, maintaining the furnaces in our building?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Gerald, because this is so normally we would do that through, It's one of our wards of the regional district. Normally, we would have a standing offer so that we could do those kinds of things quickly. If we can, right now, sometimes we are left to the device of having to get a contractor to sign a service agreement. So, so to Gary's, and Gary was pointing out another piece, where we know there is a licensed contractor, we can have some assurances to it. To Andrew's piece, unless you check, you don't really know. So it's a little bit of a gray area for the regional district until we get those standing offers set up.
I know
So
with WorkSafe, there's a really handy process. It's actually a website. You go in and I just had my roof done. I check on my contractor and I know his dues are current because sometimes people have insurance, but their dues aren't up to date. And then you find out you're liable when, someone falls off the roof, right?
right, and remember, so actually, those are two different things. WorkSafe, there's two different. WorkSafe is about an employer protecting its employees through that. So that's a little bit different than general liability insurance. But you're right. So what you can get from WorkSafe is not whether a contractor has general liability insurance. What you get from WorkSafe is that they have WorkSafe coverage. And the two things are really covering different things.
That's right. Maybe both those things we should be checking. I don't know.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct that we should be making sure that the contractors because where this comes to a crossroads is a company that has workers and is sending you a worker to the site to do work. That is where WorkSafe insurance becomes WorkSafe has a relationship there with us. Where a contractor is a sole proprietor, that is where general liability insurance. It plays a role in both situations, but sometimes sole proprietors don't have necessarily have WorkSafe coverage.
So what happens if they hurt themselves while working for you?
They're on their own bid for medical. But if you work as a sole proprietor on a site with other contractors, you need WorkSafe.
Correct.
So it's pretty rare that you're all on your own. I've had WorkSafe and I've not had WorkSafe when I'm just doing my own thing on the rental. But it's rare that you're not working with someone else. So you're required because you impact the safety of other workers.
Yeah.
Over.
Okay, so I don't know where we're going to go with that, or there's not real resolution to this.
No,
Andrew, can you what is the context of the question, and then maybe?
Well, it started with, we talked about liabilities when we do something we shouldn't be doing. We said, well, we get the contractor to do that. And it's like, well, that's all fine and dandy, but does the contractor have injury insurance and liability insurance, right?
Yeah, and so very good question. So Andrew, in that context, if we have a scope of work, that's a little, Cheryl, maybe a little bit, let's do it this way. We're going to hire a contractor to paint the outside of the building.
Okay.
In that context, we would go through a process to hire that contractor under the formal procurement rules of the regional district. In that procurement process, it would be that they're going to have to sign a standard RDCK service agreement. In that process of signing that RDCK service agreement, our contract admin, so whether that be Jenna Chapman in this case, or we're just in the process of actually hiring a contracted, they would then they would have what they call a certificate of, they would get a contractor to fill out a certificate, a COI, where they list the insurance that were required. So we get them to have their broker fill that out. And during that process as well, Andrew, we actually, just like you said, we go to WorkSafe to ensure that that contractor is covered in that case, where we have that kind of a formal process that is done. Sometimes though, we just call up company X to come and do a furnace servicing. Sometimes we look at, in our process right now, we can just do that. So that goes to Gerald's part about doing a furnace service. We have a relationship with a certain furnace company. At the moment, that is fine. We consider that fairly low risk. We're eventually going to be going to standing offers where, Andrew, to your point, we would have already checked that in a standing offer that they have all of those, they've met all of those requirements. Does that make sense?
I should clarify one point, Joe, because you said you're in the process of hiring. Regional District has had for many years oversight, project management, contract administration. Joe's department is talking about additional direct staff because he has so many buildings to look after. So it's not something we haven't had. We have multi-million-dollar contracts every year, and they're all
Correct.
vetted. Process is pretty complete. The $500 furnace maintenance, not so much. And I'm the one who's been harping on having standing offer agreements because I haven't worked for the federal government for 28 years now, but for 13 years, I had a handful of standing offer agreements for anything I would have needed because that's how you get stuff done. You pre-vetted everybody, you just pick up the phone and say, hi, I need you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to do this. Clean everything out of here because I have a demolition coming in. So they're a moving company. They can't do it, phone the next one. Hi, I need you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
They're already
You just run through it.
Sure.
So, but we've always had people running the contracts, vetting everybody, looking for the insurance. These are the very tiny things we're talking about. And the tiny things are most efficient, having relationships, as Joe said, but with a vetting and a piece of paper that says once a year they're up to date. We'll get there on the little one.
All right. 7.4, Riondel Community Center Development Report. Joe, this is one that I need clarification from you. Just like, what are the next steps here? The report has been submitted to the CBT. We've all looked it over. What happens next?
I think what happens next. So I guess there's a few things. Which projects do we want to prioritize? So I think that would be the next step. I think the one project that I know that I would love to have direction from, maybe not so much direction from commission, but an understanding from commission, which projects we're prioritizing for this year. You know that we have some money. We kind of outlined it during the budget process, but I don't know that we've worked all of our way through that.
Now, it's hard to prioritize things since we don't really know what kind of funding we have. Is there any way that we have any idea what CBT might provide?
So I guess two different things. Maybe we break it down in just the smaller chunks. There may be something that we think is an immediate repair that we need to do, whether we have CBT funding or not. That would be good to know. Then there may be a project that we think is bigger that we require CBT funding for. So, and I think that's important because CBT is not going to fund everything that we need to do. So we need to identify those bigger projects that we want to apply to CBT for. So for example, Gerald, the outside auditorium wall. The commission may prioritize that for work to get done. And then we can get the business doing the contract for that work.
Yeah, that's okay, because there's the auditorium wall, there's the entrance door, the handicapped accessible washroom. Those are all priorities, and they're pretty small scale projects that we can probably deal with. But then my question is the big issues, like if you want to improve the fire safety of this building, that's a huge issue. Replacing windows and doors for better environmental efficiency, energy efficiency is a huge one. So I'm just not sure how we approach CBT with those big items.
Well, what we can once. Let me reach out to CBT and ask them that exact question. You've got the report. How would you like the regional district to bring projects forward?
And the other specific concern I have is with the fire safety element. I would really like to know if there are alternative approaches to boosting the fire safety of the building. Because the one that's proposed in the architect's plan is extremely destructive and the cost is horrific. Whereas there might be simpler alternatives that aren't quite so elegant, but that would cost a lot less and be a lot less destructive. I was wondering if we could have the commercial building inspector come to our community center and just give us some advice on what he sees as, sort of necessary and feasible. Is that possible?
So you're talking about an RDCK building inspector to come, is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, because, well, let me make it really concrete. We can improve the fire safety of the ceilings in this building probably by simply covering them with gyprock. That doesn't do anything it does minimal for energy efficiency, but it does cover the safety element, I think. And it would be a lot more straightforward to do and a lot less expensive. But I don't know. I don't have that kind of expertise or knowledge. So that's what I was thinking, if a building inspector could actually look at this building and say, yes, this is what you could do, or these are possibilities. It might turn out that the architect's suggestion is the only one that's workable, but I don't know for sure.
Well, I think what Studio 9, through the chair, what Nelson, I think there's two, maybe not two, but maybe more than a few things. What the question, we sometimes get tied to CBT, but I think the CBT is what CBT was trying to do, and I think whether it be Gary or myself or Studio 9 or even the building, what we're trying to communicate is that it's not just a matter of fixing one part. Because what we're trying to do is to improve the building to make it robust enough to stand up to the next 30 to 50 years of life. I think that is the goal that we have to be trying to achieve. So for the community over the long term, what Nelson's trying to say is that you actually have multiple goals you're trying to achieve. Energy efficiency, building longevity, fire safety, and making the spaces work the best way they can for the community, whether that means removing a wall or keeping the present configuration, whatever. Those are the big package you're trying to achieve. It's not just any one of those items. You're actually trying to hit all of them so that the community can, in 20 years, can be not going, why did we not replace the insulation, for example? You know, so I don't know that you can separate out sometimes some of those elements. They're integral, they're completely integral to the bigger goal. I'm not sure if I'm communicating that in a way that's useful or not.
You are, but I really think that, like, my only main concern is the ceiling, and how that's dealt with. I'm not sure that that we're going to increase the energy efficiency of the ceiling that much by doing massive, by stripping everything off and replacing it, because I think the ceilings are insulated. It's just I would like to see just a second look at this one particular element of the plan, because it is $1 million element. And I think that alone justifies a second look to make sure that there is only one way of approaching this. And that's the best way.
The ceiling does look a little yucky.
Like, it's not, look, it's got
Well, I
nothing
know,
to do
but
with
you have stuff there, like.
Oh, I know, that's trivial. That can be dealt with. But we're talking about stripping everything off the ceiling all through the entire building.
It sounds like they want to do a good job that's going to last many years rather than just a lipstick on a pig.
But no, it's not. If you put gyprock on this ceiling, you fire safe it, it would look good. What it wouldn't do is increase the energy efficiency very much.
But what you wanna know, if you wanna know if the $1 million you spend on re-insulating and increasing the insulation is gonna give you a good enough ROI for the next 20 years to pay for itself for 10 years, right? Because I agree with you, adding another 12 inches or 24 inches of insulation, is it, for the cost of it, gonna save you that much money, or is it gonna take you 40 years to recuperate the cost? Right? Where you just put the drywall on and. But you're only looking at recouping the incremental cost of the installation while the ceiling's gone. Right? So it can be dissected. I do think you need to think in terms of this building is ready for $1 million. You have at your fingertips what I just looked in my book, Joe. What's the reserve sitting at right now? 300 and some? 320, 330,000 in reserve?
You know, I didn't log right in, Gary's like, I will do that right now. So you keep going and I'll get it for you.
Okay, so you might have 300 and change in reserve. You might ask CBT for a 300. You might borrow 200,000 because we have it authorized, and you can repay it because you have the budget, the horsepower in the budget to do that now. And then, you know, if we looked at gas tax as well as we talked about, those four elements would be $1 million. So then you say, if you had $1 million, well, let's just spend a third of it and just put drywall on. But we don't allow for new wiring and redo this and that, all the really cheap stuff to do while the ceiling's stripped. Any other ventilation stuff, really cheap to do while the ceiling's gone. I've done enough aggressive rentals. I've saved every one of my clients money by gutting parts of the building. They say, wow, that's a lot of work. I say, everything after we gut that is cheaper. Everything. Electrician's cheaper, plumber's cheaper, tin basher's cheaper, everybody else is cheaper. The drywaller's cheaper because they come into a clean, smooth surface and they board it. There's nothing in the way. Gone. It becomes cheaper at every stage once you do the aggressive rental. Doesn't mean you do the whole building at once, but maybe you bite off $200,000 of work and you do everything from that wall north. Then you do everything through here. Then you do the library and the music room separately.
The $1 million estimate didn't it take into account anything about wiring and
Okay,
all those
but
things?
this is what Joe's talking about. If you open up and have the opportunity to say, what else could you do for the next $10,000? Electrician with some wiring, if everything's open, can rewire your lighting configuration cheaper than it can ever be done at any other time. So you look at the opportunity. You want, Joe said many things. You want a clean surface. You want added insulation, which may get a return on investment for that piece only, not the removal, not the reinstallation, but just the insulation, labor to stuff in place. You may get a return on investment in a decade, you may not. But you look at the things that you want to do within the $1 million envelope, then you say opportunistically, what else could we do? What if we had another 50? Instead of borrowing 2, you borrow 250. You might think, oh, that'll never work. But if you borrow that over time and you say, we're going to do it right, it's not that much money over time.
But that's only part, like the other, the walls and doors.
So you
That's
do
another.
do one thing well instead of 3 things poorly.
Well, so why not do the windows well?
Yep.
Because that was identified in more than one report as a prime heat loss for this building.
Well, what I'm doing comments though is for us to prioritize that. We want to do the insulation.
But Joe,
We want to do the window.
but Joe has also pointed out that safety trumps everything else.
Generally, you want to be.
So if the ceiling is a safety issue, it takes precedent. I would personally love to do the windows and doors. Because that, the Harmony Engineering report on the building, said that would be an automatic 20% increase in the energy efficiency of this building, just to do that. The architect, Chris Fairbanks, said that that was extreme heat loss. But it's not a safety thing. So if the ceiling is a safety, so this is where I'm at a bit of a loss, you know. Can we, you know, do we not do anything with the windows and doors? Because that's another, I can't remember what the figure is. It's going to be another $500,000, easily.
Years ago at the referendum that failed, we were talking $2.5–3 million. So yeah, you're not going to fix the building for $1 million.
Well, no, it was $5 million.
There was the high, medium, and low. People voted on the medium.
But what we're talking here, I think, is the high end.
So I said years ago it was $2.5–3 million. You're not going to fix it in this round. You make a decision on what you are going to do well.
So can we do the windows and doors first?
As long as we don't change our present occupancy,
Doesn't change.
you can sometimes delay. Sometimes, depending upon if there's a code change or something happens beyond our control in the industry, Sometimes there's changes that come down just because all of a sudden there's a point of view that something is so dangerous that we must be doing it if we want to maintain a certain occupancy. Normally that's happened in only very rare circumstances. So could you? Yes, we could prioritize that work as long as we're not planning on changing the occupancy of what we're presently doing.
That's important to know. Nils?
Yeah, I'm just saying that, if we go to safety, it means that we're gonna fire guard the ceiling in this whole building. We insulate. All the walls are plywood. Flammable. They have to be taken down. Between the main floor and the basement, we have to fire guard. If we're gonna conform to today's standards, that's what we have to do first.
Most of your HRVs for safety and health.
What I would prefer to do is have some way that Artie or the commission has some input as to how we move forward. We live in this building, we operate this building, we maintain this building. Studio 9 doesn't come here, Artie Dickey, other than Gary, comes here once in a while. We live here, we know what this building needs, we know what this building means to the community. We have some idea what this building needs to be comfortable. I just want to have some input, Joe, as a commissioner, as we move forward to say, this is what I think, rather than having engineers saying, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. We know what we need. Just ask us, invite us to the table to give our some counsel. Like Harold said, what we need is new windows. I think he was very low when he said it's 20% energy efficiency. It's probably more 60% energy efficiency if we replace the windows, reduce the windows. That would be huge.
And Andrew, you mentioned something that's also very important.
The HRV is most important for safety and health on that whole list. Yeah, if we get a fire, the fire protection is important. But if we don't have a fire, number 2 would be the HRV.
Yeah, and that's a lower cost again.
Yeah.
Right.
So did I miss something? This commission was asked for this to provide input. If you're not finished having the discussion, giving the input, say you're not finished, carry on your conversation. Don't tell me you weren't asked to provide input. That's specifically what you were asked, to provide input. You're not going to solve it here. So go back to the table, do another workshop, sit with Joe, whatever you want to do. Come up with your local suggestion. Nobody said this has to be done or that has to be done, but you were asked to provide your input, correct? Do it again. Start it over. Do it again. Don't blame anybody for where you're at today. We've been years and years and years talking about what's going to happen next in this building. So just reset, please, today. Have your conversation as a commission. You didn't hear my voice very much in the last conversation. Please have that conversation again and say what you think your entire community wants and put it to the RDCK as the strongest recommendation you make. Please do that again.
Can we ask the community what they want to do here?
Well, we did the whole thing. We did the straw poll. We did the official referendum and it failed.
And I've asked individual user groups.
Yeah.
Much more recently.
Please sit down again and have that conversation again if you feel you haven't been heard at all.
Engineers have sent emails to RDCK suggesting these are what we need to do.
Maybe as a group.
So please redo that, Neil. Please redo it. I think Joe's asked many times. Redo it again, and I will ensure you get feedback. I will ensure you get feedback. Please sit again as a commission and talk to each other about what needs to do, when and where. And if it's not a code violation, you will get feedback.
Okay, so I don't want to take the whole evening with this. So Joe, we will sit down as a commission and look at priorities, and make suggestions, and send them out to you.
Yep.
Okay.
Can I just ask Joe something? There was a notice that Gerald sent out a while ago asking for some input as to whether there was any, assets that we could sell, make money to do something. What did he mean by that, Joe? Because I think it was regarding you.
Oh, sorry. It was just, so
I don't, yeah.
didn't quite come out the way I would have, I don't know how Gerald put it, but, Gerald and I, what I was just suggesting, was, has the commission ever considered making a recommendation to reduce the number of buildings that we own as a regional district in Riondel?
Mm-hmm.
Do one building
And
well.
that we could, if the commission felt, you know what, we really don't need to own all of these buildings, could we sell some? And then those proceeds could be used to be put back, because that money would stay in the service. Could
Okay,
be
so we
used.
got money if we sold
But it's just,
We have
It was
to sell.
just like, so just to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that, I was just saying, have we ever considered it? That's all.
no, we considered demolition. of the
Oh,
rec
sorry,
center.
right, definitely, well, demolition of spaces that, yes. We've considered that, but there's also some other buildings that are standalone.
Well, one is the old medical building, but that's also where the tractor is stored, the truck is stored. There's the workshop there. So that's a consideration. Plus, it's been well maintained over the last few years because it's been used. It hasn't been an issue for it.
Oh, what are the assets that you're speaking of, Joe? We
Well,
don't
that's-
know.
I'm asking for your input. I'm just saying there's different ways of looking at things.
And you can't, I don't believe you could sell the rec center because it's attached to the curling club.
You could sell the entire thing. However, value would be lot value minus demolition, so you're in negative.
Anyway,
Correct.
I think our highest priority right now is to look at what the development plan for this building is and what we want to see with it. Is that we have to move forward. from this
So,
point.
sorry, just so we know, normally the process where communities get involved and help direct what we call the program, like what do you want the spaces to do? And then the way that I hear us talking about this building and talking about it over the years is we've talked about it as if it's our personal house. And public buildings are not personal houses. They're just not. They are public spaces that we don't, in our house, we can look away from something. In a public space, you don't look away. You make a plan for it.
Yeah, I don't think we're trying to look away, and that was the whole point about the question of what is absolutely essential to do and where do we have choices. And you've indicated that we do have choices if we're not changing occupancy. So I'd like to work from that ground. We know what the building is used for. We've got pretty clear occupancy at this point. So anyway, I think the best we can do is get together as a commission and make some suggestions and see where those go.
So we're basically trying to understand what would come first.
Yes.
And so, from a building perspective, the ceilings probably would be best thing to do first, and then work down. my point. Thing is, you can fix things in there and that. I would be a little concerned about windows, in terms of then taking the windows down. I don't know what people think, what people think first, I mean, that's what we have to do.
Yeah, well, let's sit down and talk about it, you know, not here, because it's too complicated. Okay. But let's do that. Is that okay, Joe? We'll have
Yeah,
a
so
conversation.
Yeah, so the first thing that was suggested in the report was that we get an evaluation of the foundation from a structural engineer.
Yes, so can you?
Is that
can you
okay
speak-
to move, is that
Yes.
okay to move forward with?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I don't think anybody argued with that one. And I think Bill had a quote on the auditorium wall. Do you want him to pursue that?
We don't, yeah, like following our policy, it's more than one quote once we have a scope of work.
Okay, yeah, I just don't know how many people do that work around here.
Well, that's okay. Like all we need to do is we need to go through the process of asking.
Okay,
Well, like,
and,
it's not that you need to get free quotes. It's that you must show that we did the process so that we're not,
oh, okay. Okay,
just, it needs to be a transparent process. So I'm not suggesting you skip on the process. It's just that, the process doesn't necessarily result in more than one quote.
okay, no, that's clear. So Nils, can you follow up with that contractor?
I'll try.
Hopefully. All right, I think that's good for now. We'll have to schedule, a separate meeting to look at the development plan. All right, 7.5, I just need clarification on this. We did have a motion at our last meeting to hire, the Kootenai duct cleaner to clear the ducts in the building. Is that all approved? Can I go ahead and tell him to do that work?
I don't know, you asking Joe?
Joe, it was in our minutes. It was, I think, a $2,000 expense, so it needs to go through channel.
So it's best if you send those things to me directly. So yes, we can do up a PO for them to do that work.
Okay,
I
so,
just need the details. I don't
will-
normally call minutes for work like that.
okay, so, and then will you contact the duct people or should I?
Just what we'll do is once you give us the information, we can have, and Teresa, sorry for talking through the commission to you right now, but that's something that, we can have a discussion, Teresa, with Jenna about whether you feel comfortable doing those types of things once it has, so what we do, Gerald, in this process, it's under $5,000. So we can do that through a PO. And that just needs essentially mine or Craig's approval.
Okay, so
we
I'll
can get
send
that
you,
going fairly quickly.
yeah, I'll send you that estimate then from Kootenai duct cleaning. I'll do that tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Okay,
And we need to ask about the MSDS on the sanitizer they're gonna spray, otherwise I could skip that. They can't provide it.
okay.
I've ran into that problem before where you ask for the MSDS and then they give you your money back. They don't even have to pay for it because they don't want you to see what they sprayed.
The material safety sheet.
Okay, so why don't I send you the email address for Kootenai duct cleaning and you can ask. Yep. Okay. 7.6, defibrillator maintenance. I asked Corey Medhurst to check our defibrillator here, and I believe he's done so. But we should have a standing agreement with either the ambulance group or the paramedic, community paramedic, to just monitor our AED here. But Corey is, I believe he's finished at the end of March. Yeah, so there'll be a new community paramedic, so we'll have to, we should get in touch with that person. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we don't have full staff for the regular ambulance, part of the problem.
Yeah, so anyway, it's taken care of for the moment, but we do need, it would be good to have an agreement so that somebody is looking after that AED. We said that we would pay for replacement batteries and parts, but the regular monitoring would be nice if the ambulance people looked after it. 7.7, garbage collection. Donna, I guess it's you.
Yeah, I kind of tried. I don't know. I'm just gonna give up. I see that it's kind of in the work. Other communities are getting it, and maybe eventually we're gonna get it, but it's just not gonna work for us right now.
Well, what I've been getting when I've been listening to it is RDCK has a plan, a future plan for changing garbage collection, including the recyclables and the organics. And they're working their way out the lake. They're at about 6 miles. And they're gonna get to the east shore, I'm not sure. I don't know if there's any discussion or long-term planning for them coming to this side. But we've been asked, John has been asked to back off, that she's done what she could do and they've taken it from here.
Yeah. So, to the chair, part of what I believe I passed along was there are advantages to curbside garbage collection if you can add blue box recycling to it. Because the blue box pays for a big chunk. I mean, they have blue box program. If you're eligible, it pays for a truck to drive around. And if you have a split truck, then you can get garbage in the blue box and the same amount of diesel, the same driver. The additional incremental time is minuscule compared to going from house to house. So recognizing, and the other thing is you can have curbside organics collection. But recognizing the rules on blue box and recycling collection have changed over the recent couple of years, where instead of having to have so many thousand population and a certain density housing, that they're saying we can use what's called adjacency. That you can go beyond, say, the boundaries of Creston into Erickson and up towards Windle and qualify for the same subsidized provincial blue box program, which takes the pressure off the transfer stations that we use and the recycling that regional district is having to staff and fund. It is a drain on your taxation. It's heavily subsidized. Within the regional district, $2 million a year right now, subsidy roughly for the recycling, which is free in BC, according to some PDAs that they still run. So we went out to public, not here, because you were so far that you'd never get both programs, period. We went out the rural areas and areas A, B, and C. D we didn't because they're too far from anything else. E, F, G adjacent to Selmo, because they have blue box, even though they're smaller populations, they jumped on it right away as a council and got it early on. H, Spokane Valley, I, J, and not K, they're too spread out. Of those, people who are given mail outs to their home within certain areas that can make this adjacency, and A, B, and C said, nope, leave us alone, we're doing our own thing. So the impetus on the East Resource Recovery to pursue more curbside garbage and recycling and staff work plan was pushed to the side because there's other stuff they're doing every day for East Resource to keep our system efficient. They are proceeding with some of the areas so people say, yeah, we're interested. Now, if you're going to impose something, you guys have to do this. It becomes a requirement to get to vote on new stuff like that. So they're going through referendum process to say, okay, you signaled you kind of want this, you're going to have to vote. To poll just this community and have a vote on something like that, when the contractor said, here's a great price, but it's everybody or nobody. That's a big deal because we don't have the other blue box funding in there to help out. In fact, we'd still be having an attendance and opening and collecting for the recycling. Or we say we're closing that, you get curbside garbage, but you got to drive your recycling somewhere else, Crawford Bay. That's why you haven't seen staff jump up and down and say, let's do this. Because they have been told to do certain things. I wanted to see how far it would play out if there was some flexibility, because curbside garbage collection is moving up the lake, not by the regional district, but by Tippett. They're already collecting north of Toon Bay. People say, I want this. They say, how much? So even though they're paying to subsidize the Boswell transfer station and the transfer station in Creston and the one in Crawford Bay, they're also paying extra for their curbside garbage collection because they want it. So if you guys want it, you want to pay for it, make a deal outside of local government, go for it. But the local government to impose it is not a quick and easy thing. It would end up with a vote. I'm going to go back, not to ruffle feathers too much. Last time we asked for a vote in this community, people said, yeah, we like that. With this building, we talked about, but it came to the vote, they said, nope. But the signal was yes, the vote was no.
How do you do a vote around here?
Referendum, we have an official elections officer, Tom Dool, a deputy elections officer, Angela Lund. They hold a formal polling, just like any other vote, just like federal, provincial, and municipal government, exactly the same. Everybody's given notice, you're given a referendum question, yes or no, got to be clear, you got to see the numbers, what it'll cost you. 50 plus 1 say yes, government imposes it. 50 minus 1 say no, or plus 1 say no, it goes away, and then you can't hold that same vote again for a period of time. It's a fairly formal process, unless Tippett was so serious that they would drop into this community without everyone being forced to take the service up and just see how it goes. Doesn't seem to be playing out that way so far.
What about if we ask for, yeah, for $15 a month, we could pick up garbage right at our house, they'll give us the garbage can.
So do you,
If ask both to these properties, whether they want the garbage pickup, and if we get to 51%, we go for it, no?
so you do have a garbage service under the commission. So in theory, as a commission, you can ask the regional district to hold a referendum, formal referendum on them. It will cost your service anywhere from $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to hold that referendum, formal referendum. The advertising, the notice, all the additional stuff, probably in that range. You can ask for that formal vote to transition probably your garbage service to curbside, mandatory within a defined area. I would think if you want to change a defined area, that's the big deal. That's the way bigger issue.
What about sending out just a simple letter and feel it first?
Well, this is what I thought of.
Yeah.
Sorry, through the chair. If we had more clarification what's being offered and how rigid that Tippett would want to see something happen, that they need 200 households guaranteed to pay, then that letter might make sense. Right now, I don't see that information. If you're here and you have Bluebell cable or internet and you're gone for the winter, they let you go from whatever $100 a month to, I don't know, $20 a month, something lower level. Don't they have a winter rate here? Right. You're not going to get that for the garbage necessarily. You can get it for the water. You can have your water shut off. So we're going to do that for the garbage. We have all the information. They need 200 people, 200 parcels every week, winter or summer, whether you're here or not.
Yeah, I was.
So those people may tend to vote no.
Yeah, I was told not to ask them any more questions.
So if you want to ask staff if they want to transition the so which services here? Riondel Refuse Transfer F-189, transition it from the drop-off bins to curbside via referendum. That could go on a work plan. I do not expect they're going to work on it next week or next month, because I know exactly what I need them to work on your behalf today. I chair the East Resource Committee. I know exactly what we have to do. That's in the millions of dollars of impact for our collective 14,000 souls between ABC and the town of Creston. And ABC and the town of Creston gets a vote as well on those priorities. So you guys can ask to transition your refuse system to curbside and throw it back to Uli's department and see how complicated it might be. But if you go out without good information, I would expect everyone who's seasonal to vote no. So how many houses are empty today? How many houses are empty?
A temporary resident will say no,
And that will be it.
and then that's for us
Okay,
all.
in British Columbia, the province sets the rules for voting. Regional district follows those rules. If you are a non-resident elector, now some people can vote and some cannot. If you own another property that is your primary residence in British Columbia, in addition to one here that's not your primary residence, you're entitled to vote. If your primary residence is Alberta or Ontario or Saskatchewan, you're not entitled to vote under provincial law. So there are issues around who can and who can't vote, and that's why it's not a $50 referendum.
Went from Alberta, so that should work for it.
Generalizing is not the way to go about this. So Tom Dual would have to be very specific around eligibility, how the service came into being, what would be required for the question and how to transition it, and who's eligible to vote. So I'm not going to say who or who isn't eligible to vote. And not everybody with the property here is from Alberta, but they may not be eligible to vote. Some people may actually also take offense to that because they're now going to be forced to pay for something year round. There's maybe a fairness element here that we'd look at before spending the larger money and going through a full referendum.
But if they didn't have garbage drop-off down here, they got no choice. Otherwise, they're getting in the car and hitting the highway with their garbage, driving someplace.
I dropped my garbage in Crawford Bay today.
But if you got a trailer here, what are you gonna bring it to the store or down to the campground? There won't be no business
Crawford
there.
Bay Transfer Station, open Sunday and Tuesday now, and at the end of the month, open Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday.
For $15, you don't think they'd rather pick that in front of their trailer?
Sorry, Chair, we should not do the debate. We'd have to have all the information, phrase the question, formal vote, 50+1. That would be it. The government will now impose this or not impose this, based on the input. So we don't have all that stuff.
Question is, do we want it as a commission or not, right?
Well, we don't have the information either, so.
Yeah, I don't see that, it's a burning issue. And
No, not allowed to burn it.
We used to burn it here in Crawford, but it is, I take my stuff to Crawford Bay.
Why don't you take it here?
Because I go have coffee with the lady at Crawford Bay and then I take her stuff.
Because we're going in the hole on the garbage front, and we should raise how much we charge a bag, and for 3 years, going in the hole there, we haven't done nothing about it.
People in the hole.
We've been losing money on the garbage front for 3 years. It just seems neglectful.
Well, no, I mean, we've raised the rates, garbage stickers,
But we don't make enough,
and we never will on garbage stickers.
we used to.
No, we
Yes,
didn't.
we did. That's why we had the extra $15,000, and we've been spending it over the last.
No, we had a whole different service here. We had a truck that was parked outside here. It was a whole different service, nothing like.
You
what it
weren't
is.
paying a contractor to haul bins, it was your staff who, within whatever hours of week work, would drive the garbage and tip it at property. Private industry, not local government.
So, like, how do you compare to getting into the garbage while cleaning up?
It's private
Put it
industry.
out there, so they're gonna come.
Their
pick it up.
concern and the landowner's concern. The stuff that's being picked up along the lake right now, that's private industry, not your local government trying to police it. Conservation officer might, but it's not to do with your local government.
Yeah, I asked them if that was, because sometimes they were saying in the winter, starting October, I think, they wanted to do it every 2 weeks. And I said, well, what about the bears? We have lots of bears here.
So-
And they said, well, all along the shore, they do it, and they don't have a problem with the bears. So they have to just be,
Timing.
yeah, you have to know what you're putting in your garbage and keep the oil stuff out of it until,
Black bag, plastic bag, up on the side.
no, they give you,
Garbage
little
can.
with wheels. Garbage down the wheels, yeah, garbage bin. I know that, and they say that they don't say they're, animal proof, but they say they do work. Yeah. They have a latch, I guess, on them. I guess if a bear really wanted to get into them, they could. Yeah, they supply those.
Okay, I would suggest that we put it on the agenda for our next meeting that we discuss raising the sticker price on the garbage.
Yeah, we should do something, because the change in the garbage system is a long-term And if it will happen at all, so we need a short term, we need to do something now.
We won't decide that tonight, but we'll put it on the agenda. I think Crawford Bay is $4 now? No, I think it's
$3.50.
$3.50.
Yep.
It's always $25.
Anyway, we can,
That's $3.50.
yeah, so we're at 3 right now, so, yeah, we can talk about doing that. The only other way we can save money is by having 3 bins instead of 4, but talking to the attendant there, that's not practical, especially in the summer with animals.
In the summer, yeah, he said it.
Yeah. So I think the 4 bins, he's quite happy with the way that's working now. So I think that's fixed, but, definitely the sticker price, we can make an effort there to improve that. All right, under new business, auditorium usage protocols. This came out of, the dance, actually. I realized that was so informally done that probably wasn't the best way of doing it. Whereas the Riondel Community Association said, we're gonna do a spring dance, you know, and they organized it and pulled it off, but probably that really should have come through the commission, you know, somehow. And it didn't, I don't believe. So just in the future, I think we should, just make sure that, you know, if an association like the Riondel Community Association is doing a major activity in the building, then that's somehow introduced to the commission at a meeting, just so everybody is aware.
Was there lots of people?
Yeah, there was probably.
If I, for instance, want to rent the gym, hire a band, have a dance there, I have to come through the committee.
Yes, I think that's appropriate, yeah, yeah. Not that we're likely to turn you down,
No.
but just so.
Okay, but for what reason do I need to come?
It's an RDCK building, we're the RDCK reps in the building, so, yeah, it should come through us. And then it's recorded in minutes and everything is.
You must have booked that.
Well, the community association didn't, we didn't as a commission, you know.
But it should have been done.
I think so. It's just something that I, you know, it seemed to me, oh, it's probably missed a step here, somehow. So
It
just
reminded me of 15 dances, free drinking, and, you know, it was so cool. It was very cool, man.
yeah, we had some young people there. Good mix.
Happy fun.
And not an onerous task for the organizers to put together. Yeah, no, so just, in the future, I'll make sure that, it gets on the agenda here, or whoever is doing it within it. And, item 8.2, recent maintenance on the community center. Evan and James have been, working around the building, and, so is Nils, actually. Evan and James put up the, security gratings and all the windows in the basement. Looks pretty good. They've been doing, painting and finishing inside. All the holes that were made in the walls when they were doing the surveys of the building, they patched up. And we'll, you know, we can do a bit of painting, additional painting. Yeah, and Nils has redone boards for the benches out front here, so that those will be, fixed up again. They reinforced the arbor here, it was a bit shaky. It's nice to have a crew like that, you know, they attach value to the building and they look for stuff that needs doing.
And they do it.
And they do it.
Volunteers, some are work with me.
Yeah, most of it is our maintenance people doing the work, but some of it, like, you know.
They fixed the doors in the auditorium so they open.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Yeah, prior to the dance, just because those were really awkward doors, and they, yeah. You know, so just, I think, you know, if you see them, Evan and James, just thank them for work they're doing on an ongoing basis here. And, we don't have any correspondence that I know of. Gary?
There's just one I was gonna touch base on, not you guys may or may not wanna head down to Boswell tomorrow at 6 o'clock. We'll do the review of the resident-directed Columbia Basin Trust funding, their grants, which is an annual thing. They take, amount of money, this year it's $1.5 million, spread across the 20 regional district partners, but electoral areas, and, the 9 municipalities. Population base, so out of $1.5 million, we get $36,316. And our requests this year are for $89,000 and change. So as always, everybody thinks, well, we would like this much money. We have roughly 40% of that. So tomorrow, mostly the applicants we want are asking for trying to get a bit of this funding. And we'll do the evaluation and communication, I guess, with a panel, community panel that runs from Riondel all the way up to Lake. And one thing I wanted to note about this is because there's always heavy competition for funding, and some of these applications are from Creston or from Nelson or beyond. But you may find that you need to say the spay-neuter program in Creston, and you value it, because we don't do that, it's destroyed. So it's quite a struggle to figure what can be handled by, or what burden can be carried by someone else versus area residents. But out of this, Columbia Basin Trust uses this process to see how much community is behind any particular project or program. And then that counts towards their evaluation if you go to them directly and ask for other money. But it's something they gauge every year. They look at what did the community representatives support? Have they supported it for more than a few years? That kind of thing. So that's one reason a lot of organizations put in, you know, they may be asking for a lot of money or just a little bit of money, but a lot of organizations put in the request. I mean, the biggest one I see here is $15,000 request. What I see was 36,000, so that's almost half the total right there. A few of them for a couple thousand, 2,500. I think the lunch program's asking for 8,000 this year, something like that. 6,500, asking for $6,500. So, something to, if you're involved, if you're sitting on this commission or interested in upcoming community, you're on others. You're volunteering for something. And this process is one that Columbia Basin Trust uses to gauge general community support. So, you have a society or something else you're doing, you might think next year, if you didn't this year, asking for something. See where the chips fall.
What is that called again, Gary?
Resident directed, they're calling it now. They have a different name every few years. And it's been advertised, it's been in newspapers, including Main Street, it's been on the website since January about the application submission deadline, that kind of thing. So anyway, it's an interesting, they say, barometer, I guess. And some groups, all they need is this couple $1,000 or $400. That's all they need. And they don't have to go anywhere else if they get this one. Tomorrow night, that's the only thing I had that's kind of emerging right now.
Thanks, Gary.
In not July.
And thanks for your feedback on other questions that come up during the meeting. I appreciate it. All right, financial reports. You have a copy of the income and expenses. Nothing really unusual on there, I don't think. We had to pay a Coakley to plow our snow once because our tractor wasn't working at that time. The Proctor Forest Products mills, those are probably the boards for the bench, I would imagine. They're on there. It's just building supplies. And other than that, the standard, getting our refuse stickers, income. Riondel Boat Club, what did they, Teresa, I didn't, why did they pay us $50? Oh, okay. Thanks, Tom. And that's it. So we'll just say that that's been received. And back to the public. Anything? Nope, everything's good? Okay.
You don't wanna talk trash anymore?
I do enjoy those results.
This is, this is quaint.
It is a novel.
Oh, that does remind me, we did have I just had a question today about, the possibility of doing loose plastics that are recycled. Is there any possibility that that could happen?
Like film or?
Well, no, like, you know, we can put solid containers plastic, but we can't bring,
Bag.
Plastic
Film.
bags.
Yeah, film, plastic.
yeah.
Film and
Is
stuff.
there,
Take
you
it
can
to
take it
Crawford
for
Bay.
Crawford Bay.
Yeah, so Boswell doesn't accept the film either.
Oh, okay.
It is, again, one of the impositions of the monopoly consortium that runs Recycle BC, multi-material BC, that's a separate stream. They collect another stream separately, it's another whole deal. So,
Okay.
decisions on level of service are made all the time. I have a little, like one of these little, save-on food bags that I stuff the plastic bags in for weeks and weeks
was
and
my-
weeks.
that was-
I don't have that many.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
like, today I was at Crawford Bay instead of Boswell, or I'm in Nelson for meetings. I can be in Boswell, so I had my plastic.
Yeah, that was my suggestion to the person who asked it.
I might recycle 5 times before I get rid of the plastic bags, but they take no space.
Because I have to take my styrofoam to Crawford Bay anyway.
Other products that are, yeah, separate streams.
Okay. All right, our next meeting, is May 6th at 7 PM. And, motion to adjourn. Oh, no one's moving to.
Nobody wants-
No one wants to go.
It's not Gerald, it's not 9 o'clock yet.
Thanks, everyone.
Great job, you guys.
Something tells me May
No,
7th,
thank you if you're still there.
May
Oh,
7th.
yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, much
Thank you.
appreciated. Well, how stretched you are for time.
Gary, if you're around in Nelson tomorrow and you want to drop by about.
I'll
Crawford
send
Bay.
an email when the water meeting's over, Joe.
Okay. Have a good evening, Gary. Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks, Charlie.
Same, Joe. Take care.
Sorry, I missed your call this morning.
So I guess we need to have
Want me to,
anytime.
I just hit off?
Let's,
You